Good morning, I'm Chris with Everman Overland. I'm here to give you a real quick synopsis on how I wired up these 6.5-inch Trailblazer lights from LED Colight. It's a fairly simple process, but there are 4 wires coming out of the lights, and you may wonder, like, what do I do with all 4 of these? There's only supposed to be 2 wires. That's all I understand is 2 wires, right? So these lights have a couple of different features that a lot of lights don't. This light comes with this built-in ring that can be illuminated in white or yellow for marker lights or daytime running lights, or just to look cool. And then of course you have the other set of wires that is for the high-powered output that we all buy the lights for, so we can get lots of light down range and light up everything in front of us. So let me get the grill shell off of here, which only takes a second, just a few screws to get this out of here, and I'll show you how it's all wired up. Okay, so with the grill shell removed, now it's sitting up there and things aren't as pretty anymore because now there's just a whole bunch of ugly stuff. You can now see that off the back of each one of these lights, you get yourself a 4-wire connector. So each one of these connectors has 4 wires on it. You can see the 4 little holes that account for the 4 pins that are inside of the main harness coming off of the light. And on the back of the connector, you can see that the 4 wires are red and black, white and yellow. So it's a little bit harder to explain because everything is already installed and everything's all bundled up and put together. But what each one of these 4 wires do is fairly simple. So the red and black wire, which as they come out over here, you can actually see that the red wire and the black wire are much thicker. They're much heavier duty. They're a heavier gauge than the white and yellow wire. The white and yellow are very thin. So the red and black wires power up the main LEDs in the light that put all of the light down range and give you all of the, burnt down trees as you drive past. They're very, very bright. The white and yellow will illuminate this ring that's around here in either white and yellow, just like it makes sense. So the red wire is your main power wire for the high-powered spotlight. And then the black wire is the only ground, and there's that one wire acts as the ground for all 3 of the other wires. For the high power illumination, for the white illumination ring, and for the yellow illumination ring, all 3 use the same ground wire. So what I've done here is I have taken both of the 4-pin harnesses and I have run all of the wires so that left and right are connected together. So you can see here, both of the red wires have been connected together, both of the white wires have been connected together, and both of the yellow wires have been connected together. With both black wires connected together, I ran that up here to a good grounded bolt. This is a bolt that I've used before. You can actually see that the horns, this is the relay for the horns, is grounded out through here. It gives a good connection to the ground. It's nice and solid, and it's very close by. If at all possible, you should use the shortest amount of wire possible. So both of the red wires get connected together into this single red wire that then travels in, goes all the way up here, and goes into the switch box control here. Now, if you're familiar with these switch boxes, you know this has 8 switches, so there's 8 fuses here. Each one of these fuses, like you get 2 30s, you get 2 20s, 2 10s, and 2 5s. So for these high-powered lights, we're going to use this first one right here. So this red wire that you see right there coming out the front, going into the very first one, that's for our lights. That's the red wire. So then the remaining pairs, you can see both yellows come together right here. So that pair comes up into here where I have tapped into one of the marker lights to provide power. I already had power for the 3 lights that I have in the grill shell. And since these grill shell lights are so low power, and then these rings are also very low power, you can get away with just tapping into something like this. You don't have to run another relay like I've done here for the horns. And then the 2 white wires go to this red wire here that I don't actually have hooked up to anything. I decided I didn't like the look of the daytime running lamps, so I don't have this hooked up. Now, there is a connector, it's down back in there somewhere, that runs the daytime running lamps on the factory lights, which I have unplugged because I don't like them on the factory lights either, that you could tap this into. If on your vehicle that connector doesn't give you enough power, you may have to run a separate relay such as this. This is just a very simple Bosch relay, and you would trigger the relay off of a different ignition source or off of the headlights or off of whatever you would want to run power into this, and then you would supply power to the relay from the battery. I suppose if you're at the point where you don't have any idea how to wire up a relay, wiring up all these lights probably isn't for you, and you should see a professional and have them wire these up. So there you go. That's where you plug in each one of the 4 wires to illuminate these lights. I'm using an 8-gang switch panel. You could use a 4-gang or a 6-gang. You could use whatever you want. You could use a separate independent wiring harness. In fact, LED Colight sells a pre-made wiring harness where you could just click, 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 kind of plug everything in, battery power switch inside, and you could flip them on from that. Or you can use any other type of switch power, or wire up your own relays, or a separate relay box that you got off of Amazon or wherever you get your stuff from. Or you could have just drop the lights off and have a professional wire them up any way you like. So you will want to be sure that when you purchase a set of these lights, if you don't go with the whole harness that LED Colight offers, that you pick yourself up some of these 2-pin, I believe it's pronounced Deutsch connectors, if you don't already have some. I got a whole bag of these things on Amazon. I think I got like 20 of them or something like that for 10 or 15 bucks. They're fairly cheap, but as the lights arrive to you, they will only have this connector here, which is this is the male end of the Deutsch connector system for the lights, and then you supply your own connectors to wire them up. I do like the fact that they've used these connectors because they are a waterproof connector, and being that we're up here where all the water happens and the splish splash, it's nice to have those things so that everything is insulated. I've also used heat shrink butt connectors, and all of the crimp connectors that I've used are all heat shrink, so everything is protected from the water as much as you can. And the last thing to remember as you're wiring all of this up, if you're doing this on your own, something, just a phrase that you should put in your head and you should live by it for the rest of your life, and that is small wires start fires. If you're not sure what size of a wire to use, just get a bigger wire, right? There are lots of charts online where you can look up and say, okay, well, if these lights, for example, these lights here put out 60 watts a piece. So at 12 volts, that is 5 amps for each one. Combined, that is a 10 amp load. So this single wire that I have running into my switch box over here needs to be able to hold a 10 amp load at that distance. And that's important. Is if I've got a wire that's that long, it can be a little tiny wire, it can hold a lot of electricity. But if the wire is going all the way down the street down there, you're gonna need a much bigger wire to carry the same amount of electricity. So if somehow you're wiring the lights and the wires go all the way inside, or you've got a battery all the way in the back of the truck that you're using to wire it up, or if the lights are going on the back of the vehicle and you're wiring them up here, the longer the wires are, the bigger around they need to be. So just Google wire size reference chart or whatever and figure out for a 10 amp load, how large a wire do I need to use for this length? And you can see from here, 12, so I'm probably running about 30 inches or so from the light itself to the switch box. And so you'll just look and say, okay, well, I've got 10 amps and I've got 30 inches I need to run. And it's okay, so I need to run 12 gauge or I need to run 14 gauge, whatever it is. Don't just guess and grab some speaker wire that you've had around for 25 years stuffed in a pocket somewhere. It's probably not gonna be big enough. Make sure you get the right wire. So there you go. Simple and easy. It's just 4 wires. You don't have to be scared of it. Fairly easy to install on your own. If you'd rather drop it off with a professional to have them do it, by all means. Hopefully this was helpful. Kind of show you where each one of these wires goes. It's just the 4 of them. You've got your ground, main power, power for the yellow ring, and power for the white ring, and that's all there is to it. Nice and easy. Don't forget, small wires start fires. Now let's get out there and get it done. Thanks for watching.